All right, welcome. In this lesson, we're going to bring everything together. We're going to talk about building a personal system, one that's designed specifically to increase your freedom over time.
So let's start with what's probably the most important idea for this whole lesson. Small systems build strong independence. Now, what does that actually mean? Well, it's pretty simple, really. Real, lasting change, it doesn't usually come from some single, giant decision. It's built on the small, consistent things we do, day in and day out.
Okay, go ahead and grab your workbook for lesson 15.4. If you look at the page, you'll see a section right at the top called While You Watch. The next few points we cover are going to give you everything you need to fill that section in. So let's work through it together.
So you might be wondering, what do these daily systems even look like? Well, honestly, they're usually pretty simple things. We're talking about things like consistently using a planner so you know what's coming up, or tracking your assignments so nothing falls through the cracks. It could be having a steady study routine, or even just managing those phone distractions. Protecting your sleep, preparing your stuff for the next day ahead of time. Each one of these actions might seem kind of small by itself, but when you do them over and over, that's when they start to build some really powerful momentum.
And this brings us to a really crucial idea, why consistency almost always beats intensity. I think this chart lays it out perfectly. Intensity, that's the huge all-out effort you do once in a while. Think about cramming all night for a big test. It almost always leads to burnout, and the results, they're totally unpredictable. But consistency, that's different. That's the small system you just repeat day after day. And that is what creates real momentum. It's what builds trust and confidence over the long haul.
So how does this actually work? How do these small daily actions lead to more freedom? Well, this right here shows the path, step by step. See, it all starts with those simple daily systems. Once you repeat those, you start to build momentum. And that momentum, it helps you gain trust, not just from your teachers, your family, but also from yourself. And that earned trust, that's the key. That is what leads to greater independence.
And here's the payoff. This is what you get out of it. When you have a good system working for you, it's not just one single benefit. You gain more trust, you build more confidence in yourself, you actually feel less stressed because you're prepared for things. And all of that works together to give you more options for your future and, yep, that greater independence we've been talking about.
Okay, so we've talked about the why. Now let's get into the how. It's time to actually build your system. So look at your workbook again and find the section called Apply It. This is where you're going to start designing your very own personal freedom system. So the very first step is just to choose one single system you want to focus on improving this week. As you can see on your page, your choices are your planner system, assignment system, study system, attention system, or your energy system, which is all about things like sleep.
Just focus on one for now. Go ahead and pause here, make your choice, and fill that in on your workbook.
All right, now that you've chosen your system, we need to get really specific. Ask yourself, what is one small, tiny action you will do every single day for this system? For example, if you pick the assignment system, maybe your action is, I will check my online gradebook for new assignments every day at 4 p.m. See how specific that is.
Yeah, the more specific you can be, the easier it will be to actually do. So go ahead and pause again and write down your daily action right now. Okay, next up, when are you going to start? And this is a really important step. Picking a specific start time makes it way more likely that you'll actually follow through. It doesn't have to be far off, it could be tomorrow morning, or hey, even right after you finish this lesson. So let's pause one last time for this part. Decide on your start time, write it down, and really make that commitment. And for the last question in this section, we're going to connect it all back to the main goal. I want you to really think about that small action you just wrote down. How is that going to create more freedom for you down the road? This is your why, and honestly, it's the most important piece of the puzzle. For example, maybe consistently studying every day leads to a better grade, which then gives you the freedom to choose a class you really want to take next year. Okay, pause here and complete this final step. Really think about that connection and write down your answer. So when you put it all together, what's the big takeaway? It's this. Freedom isn't some big, loud, sudden event. Most of the time, it's built quietly, kind of in the background, through the consistent systems you put in place, day after day after day. So, what's next? Well, it all starts with committing to the plan that you just created. Just remember, true independence isn't something that's just handed to you. It's something you build yourself, one small, consistent, and trustworthy action at a time.
Okay, your final step for this lesson is to go ahead and finish the rest of that lesson 15.4 page in your workbook. Be sure to answer those reflection questions you see down at the bottom. And just so you know, in our next lesson, we're going to talk about how to troubleshoot your systems when you get off track. Because let's be honest, it happens to everybody. You did some great work today. I'll see you next time.